We've done a lot of breakdowns over the years, and sometimes the analysis is difficult to do because the players are at such a high level and we're not exactly sure what their leveling war is or where they're coming from in their overall poker relationship. Sometimes the hand is very easy to do because we see like, oh, this is a slam dunk fold, this is a slam dunk raise. Sometimes it's difficult to do just because of the scenario that the players are in, and that's the case here. We are with 7 left at an EPT, and Martin Czuzor, who has been doing very well recently, is up against Yunyi Liu, and Yunyi Liu is short, which makes everything a little weird.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 17 blinds is a small stack at this stage of the tournament for sure, any stage of the tournament,
yeah.
really. And just to give you a sense of the payouts, they've already locked up like over 200,000 pounds?
Yeah.
Yes, but there's still like 1.6 million.
Actually,
okay, euros, whatever.
1.6
million to win. That's what it is up at top there. So it's a huge amount still in play here. So there's a lot going on financially, ICM-wise. And just also poker-wise, there's a lot of, as Grant's saying, super close, tough decisions
It's fascinating, all these little small decisions that have to happen here, and that's probably why it was suggested by Alex Trembath on Twitter. If you have a suggestion for a breakdown, tweet at us and include a YouTube link and a timestamp.
Now, also, we want to congratulate one of our viewers and listeners, Holden Cantrell, for winning the Poker Guys monthly tournament that takes place every month on Nitrogen Sports. We have this massive overlay, of course. We had 123 players. There were 1,000 buy-ins guaranteed, as there always are. And Holden took it all the way down and won most of the money, not all of it, but a big chunk of the money.
It's not a winner-take-all tournament, but it is a tournament that you can only access by using the link that we tweet out when we tweet about our hands. You find that link on our Twitter feed, which I mentioned already. That's the only way you can access those events on Nitrogen. Also, you want to get on Nitrogen to do some sports betting, some other gambling. It's a good place. It's Bitcoin only. They give you your money fast. Everything about it is good. You get on there.
Yeah.
Get you some poker.
Do that.
Queen Jack suited, under the gun +1.
Raise, 450.
And that's a raise to 450,000.
450, yeah.
Falcone folds. Sosa with 10-7. Also passes. 7-7 for Torre. Out. 9-6 for Brandstrom in the small. Lou has the same hand, Queen Jack, but unsuited. Calls. And the flop is Jack, Jack 5.
Thank you.
Gotta warm up my vocal cords.
We're gonna nail this one, Vincent. Now remember, it's 3, 2, 1, then you go. I will pause longer. When you hear it, we won't be in sync, but what the audience hears might be in sync, so don't stop. Stick with it.
I'm sweating. I'm sweating so much.
Also, just to put additional pressure on you, Spraggy nailed it earlier on.
No.
Yunyi Liu is in a spot already here. Of course, it feels like a good spot. He has trip jacks. As we see, it's a neutral spot. Actually, Czuzor's free-rolling him a little bit. As you'll see as this hand progresses, playing a 17 big blind stack post-flop is very difficult. Now, I'm not faulting Yunyi Liu for just calling pre-flop. I think that's the correct play out of the big blind when Czuzor opens +1 7-handed. That's a fine play with Queen Jack. But now we're in this spot where Czuzor bets a quarter of the pot, and we're thinking, okay, obviously I want to get it all in. I want value. I want to double up to 34, 35 blinds. But how can I possibly do that? Is calling the right play or is raising the right play?
It's really tough. It's hard to get a lot of action either way, and here's the reason why. Because if we think forward to the future, if we just call right now, usually it's going to go, if we check the turn, almost always Czuzor's going to check back the turn. Now, not with the hand that he has. He's probably going to bet, but he's going to check back almost all his value.
Pocket aces, he's probably going to check back. What's the value of betting again when the guy has decided to call already? Like, he's going to fold a 5 on the turn. He's not going to fold a jack, so there's not a ton of value with betting any sort of pocket pair.
So maybe you get one more street of value, maybe, and it's going to be a relatively small street of value. I think I like a raise right now, although admittedly that looks strong too, and I think we should try and make it look as bluffy as possible.
So like go all in?
Let's just shove right now, try and get called by pocket eights, hope it all works out. A lot of the time, we're just going to fall out Czuzor, but we weren't going to get any value out of him no matter what.
Right. As it stands, we're not going to get value out of him because he has the same hand and he's free-rolling us. But the problem with check raising is, what does Yunyi Liu have? It is an incredibly dry board, Jack, Jack 5. Any competent player is probably not check shoving a 5. Maybe they freak out and check shove a 5. But
I think
it doesn't usually happen. He still has like 15 blinds behind.
It's true. At the same point, the pot is at least getting slightly sizable now. You know, there's like, what, 7 blinds in there? That's worth winning at least. So you could say, like, the pot's too big. I block 5s full. I know I'm getting snapped by pretty much everything that's beating me. Maybe I fold out 6s and 7s once in a while. It's not really a bluff. It's not really a value play. It's just an equity protection play. I'm just going to win this pot right now.
Right.
It's at least possible.
I put it more in the bluff category because anytime you get called, you're pretty much dead when you have a 5.
Right, but you don't really reasonably expect to fold out better hands. That's the
No,
problem.
you don't. But you do need some bluffs if you're going to be balanced. Now, most players with 7 left in a major tournament are not going to be balanced and not have enough bluffs in spots like this. But if you're going to have bluffs, hands with a 5 in them are a pretty good choice because you block 5s full. And maybe hands like King 10, King Jack, because you block Czuzor's most likely, not King Jack, excuse me, King 10, King Queen, because you block Czuzor's most likely trips hands, the kickers you would have with his Jack. So if you're going to be balanced, that's how you do it. But, I mean, I don't know if anybody's really doing that in this spot that often unless you're talking about super high roller stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a shove just to make it look as bluffy as possible. You understand mostly it's just you just take it down and you're like, where did the value go? If you were deeper, you get more value, but it's just hard when you're this short. I mean, like,
and the board's this dry.
Yeah, and the board's like this. You kind of wish it was like a little bit wetter. Give me 2 hearts on that board. Give me something to work with.
Yeah, anyway, these guys still have the same hand. Let's see how it plays out.
I failed all week long.
Oh, look at this. It might not be a chop.
5 bet. 500.
Oh, great for Martin to be free rolling here. $500,000, the bet from Lou. Just a call. And the river card is a spade.
We jinxed him, James.
Don't lie, Vincent. You're so happy that this is not a chop.
We jinxed him.
And Lou's going to bet big. 2.8 million in the middle. And he goes for $1 million. Nearly half his stack. Now the question is, does Martin raise and try and get the rest? Or is he worried about 5s, 10s, or 9s?
I would feel if Lou had a better hand than a queen high flush here, he most likely would have used an all-in sizing. The issue for Martin is going to be with the jack in his hand, what is opponent going to call with if he shoves? But I think versus his size, you just got to go all in. Give Lou the opportunity to make the hero call.
Yeah, raises enough to put Lou all in. And what a horrible spot for Lou. Sat there with trip jacks on a straighty, flushy, paired board. And knowing that if he calls and is wrong, he is out.
We've seen him make one big fold and was wrong against Brandstrom. Will he make the big fold and be correct? It's so hard to imagine what your opponent is bluffing with here. So little left to play for. It's just so unlikely that someone pulls a trigger, but you've got this far. The pot is this big and you've got trips. It's not a fun spot at all.
And yes, he's committed a lot of chips already. But the chips you still have, the chips you have left, have more value. He'd still have 6 big blinds. horrible spot to be in, and I don't know how many time bank cards he still has. I don't know how much thinking time he can use here.
Just a horrendous river card. King Queen gets there, 7-8 gets there, all the flushes get there. What can your opponent call with on the turn and then bluff raise you all in with on the river?
He folds it. He gets away from the trips, and he still has 1.2 million.
All right, there is a lot to unpack here on the turn and river. Not only Lou's decisions, which are interesting, but also Czuzor's decisions, especially his river decision. But let's start chronologically with the turn. Lou deciding to lead directly into Czuzor here. What do you think about that?
I mean, I don't know. It's weird because we were just talking about how it's going to go check so often on the turns. We were talking about before we showed
Like
this
if
last
Czuzor
clip.
has any sort of showdown value that's not a jack. Yeah.
And even his bluffs, he might just be giving up on right away because Lou is so short, and he's like, you called. Like, what am I supposed to do here? So I like the lead from that perspective. The problem with it is, as you would say, I think you said many times in our podcast, isn't it just always a jack here when the guy leads?
Yeah, I mean, who leads anything but a jack? And you might say, okay, well, he's got to have some bluffs that he called with on the flop. But Lou, again, started the hand with 17 blinds. It's not like he's sitting there with king, queen of spades, and he's like, oh, it's the perfect turn card. He's check folding the king, queen of spades on the flop, maybe shoving it pre-flop, I don't know. He's not going to show up with hands like that. So when you lead the turn into the aggressor right here, it looks like a play that kind of makes sense from a practical perspective of thinking, well, of course, Czuzor is going to check back all of his pairs that I'm beating right now. He might feel forced to call, especially if I bet pretty small.
That's the idea.
So from a practical perspective, it makes sense. But from Czuzor's perspective, theoretically, you're like, well, this guy always has at least a jack, right?
I mean, you may say that to yourself, but you're not going to fold kings and aces for 500.
No, you're not.
Turn, right? And that's the reason to bet.
That is the reason to bet. At the same point, I don't know, over time, if you're playing against this guy forever, it's not going to work out, but I guess this is a unique situation that Lou's not going to be in very frequently.
Yeah.
I guess he's just trying to maximize equity, and damn it if I look face up here, it's fine.
I think it's fine to do it. All these decisions are really tough and weird so far anyway, and I think it continues that way on the river, honestly.
It does. Czuzor just calling on the turn, we can kind of gloss over that.
Yeah,
but
it's fine.
It's fine. I mean, he's just hoping that Lou doesn't have a better jack, and I don't know what he's going to do if he doesn't improve on the river, but here he does. He improves to the spades.
Oh yeah, makes it easier.
So first question is, should Lou bet again? He has 2.2 million total, 2.8 in the pot, he bets 1 million. Should he be doing this?
I mean, I think so. Again, I'd be really concerned about it just going check, and the overpairs, just not having to
Are
put
the
any more money
overpairs
in.
going to call on the river?
I don't know. I
It's
hope so. I don't know. I admit it's a very tough thing to come up with any calls here. We're hoping that worse jacks call, but are there any worse jacks?
I mean,
maybe
Czuzor
a
has to have
jack
jack
9
8.
suited.
Jack 9 is a full house now.
Oh, sorry. Well, that isn't good.
Yeah.
That's right, because it's the nice ways. Jack 8 suited even. It doesn't feel like this. Honestly, when all the draws come in, maybe we should check. But I don't think we're getting value by checking either. I don't like it either way.
Well, from a theoretical perspective, I like checking better just because this is such a range advantage card for Czuzor. Lou doesn't have king-queen in his range, having played with this size stack on the flop like that.
Right.
Czuzor does have king-queen in his range because the turn was where Czuzor lost the aggressive edge and Lou bet into him, and he was, of course, forced to call with king-queen for 500K. Czuzor also has all of the spade combos that he would open with that Lou doesn't have because he's never check calling the flop with any spade combos that aren't the jack X of spades because the 5 of spades is out there.
Yeah.
So it's weird because Czuzor has a massive range advantage here. Of course, Lou does have some full houses. That is in his range, but Czuzor has more of the quality hands. He has all the full houses. He has 10s full, which Lou doesn't have. He has 9s full. Well, maybe he doesn't have 9s full.
He may not have 9s full, but he certainly has 10s full.
Yeah, but Lou just has like Jack 5, Jack 10, and Jack 9, and Czuzor has other full houses as well. I guess he doesn't have Jack 5.
Probably not.
But Czuzor also has the flushes and the straights, which is problematic for this range advantage situation for Lou, which is why I think I prefer a check and figure it out line.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense, I have to say. The range advantage thing is so powerful. This 9 of spades is such a ridiculous card to come off when you're the guy who kind of can't have the straight or the flush and the other guy can.
Yeah.
It just sucks.
It does. So, but let's talk about Czuzor's decision now.
Yeah, okay.
Because he's sitting there, he's like, okay, it's 1 million into 2.8, and the guy's got 1.2 behind. I rivered a pretty damn good card, and I do have a range advantage, but that range advantage means that Czuzor isn't extremely high in his distribution here. I mean, he's relatively high, but he has a lot of better hands in his range. And as we see, Lou doesn't take too much time to fold Queen Jack here. Is Lou going to show up with Ace Jack? I'm not sure. Is he going to call with Ace Jack? I'm not sure. King Jack is like the most likely hand that maybe he can call with, but he folds Queen Jack pretty easily, so maybe that happens with King Jack as well. When Czuzor has such a range advantage and his distribution lines up in a way that gives him a lot of full houses, maybe this is not a time for a shove. Maybe this is a game theory disaster.
It kind of is, I think, and it's weird because you get this great improving card. You get a guy who bets small, which feels like he's like blocking a little bit.
Which he kind of is.
Yeah, he is. As we see, he bet
Yeah.
folds even, which is not the only blocking behavior you can do, but it's a classic blocking behavior on the river. At the same point, if we can't get value out of Queen Jack and Queen Jack can fold kind of easily, maybe this is a game theory disaster. Maybe we just can't raise here as Czuzor and get any value. The question we really have to ask ourselves as Czuzor is, what bluffs do I have? Right?
Yeah.
Do I have enough bluffs here that it is reasonable for me to shove? Because if he can show up here with the ace king with the ace of spades and shove it.
And the ace queen with the ace of spades.
Right. Maybe.
Giving Lou this price, by the way.
Yeah,
which
right.
is tough to show up
and
with.
I don't know if he can do it because of that, right? Because there's only 1.2 million back. But if he can show up with those hands, maybe then he can shove this also. But maybe not. He's still got so much more heavy value.
Maybe 9-10 because he blocks the full houses. Like that's a reasonable
how about
bluff if we're going to choose some.
Maybe
I
like
guess.
a bad jack that now thinks it's losing.
I mean, he doesn't
but
have too many bad
nope.
jacks. He
It's
opens
Jack
plus one.
8, right?
Yeah,
Maybe he shoves Jack 8 as a bluff.
And
I mean,
maybe
that's
he
what we're
doesn't
down to.
open Jack 8 in the first place.
Right.
You know, when there's a 17 blind stack in the big blind.
Maybe none of this is reasonable, and maybe it's just a freaking call.
Yeah, but I understand where Czuzor is coming from when he makes this decision, because you're just like, I just can't let this guy get away for this price when I've had such a miracle run out. The problem is, it is just so tough to get value.
I mean, you're Czuzor, you're like, I've had a monster this entire way,
Yeah.
right? I didn't raise the turn, so I feel like I just have to get, this guy's betting so small, I just have to get some more value out of this. If he's got anything, if he's got a jack, like he's been repping kind of, maybe I can get it all. I got to take the shot, right? The problem is, as we were saying, Lou doesn't just have single jacks here,
Yeah,
right?
he has Jack 10 and Jack 9 and
He
Jack
does,
5.
especially maybe Jack 5 suited, but certainly Jack 10 and Jack 9.
Yeah,
right?
and so Czuzor does have a range advantage overall, but of course Lou has hands that he can call with here, which are the full houses.
The continuing range is problematic.
We know that Lou can call with the full houses. We're assuming Lou calls with all the full houses,
I would
right?
think he would call quickly.
Right, and he folds a jack, and he doesn't have any spades that are worse than Czuzor's spades. That's not really a possibility. So I think this is just a call by Czuzor. I know it sucks,
Yeah.
and my initial hit was this is a fine play, but after thinking about it and talking about it, I think you have to just call here as Czuzor.
On our podcast, we spent a solid half hour, I think, going back and forth, not just about this, but this point where I was really like, he has to raise, and by the end I was like, I guess he has to call.
Yeah.
And Grant was more adamant the whole way, but yeah, I think Grant's right, and I agree.
It's kind of poopy overall, though. For both players, it's a very tough hand to play.
Yeah. So this fold by Yunyi Liu ends up making him an extra 70,000 euro.
One ladder.
I mean, that's a big money jump, man.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Really, I mean, I don't know if it's a great fold, but it's certainly a good fold. This whole hand, though, was full of close, tough decisions that, honestly, most of them, I think you could make reasonable cases. You could go either way. What do you guys think? Do you like how these guys played these hands? Do you think they should have done things differently, though? Do you think, let's say, on the flop, that's a check raise? Like, I'm advocating for just a check raise all in right on the flop from Lou. Do you think that's the right play? Do you think just a call is better? A call with what plan in mind afterward, though? Do you want to lead the turn like Lou did, or do you want to check again? If not a raise all in, but do you want to raise to a smaller amount, and then I assume to just go with it on the turn? What do you think of all those plays? What do you think of Czuzor deciding to just call the turn and then ultimately raise the river? Do you like those decisions? Do you think he should do the opposite? I think you make a reasonable case he should raise the turn and call the river, or just go call. These are all close spots. Let us know in the comments what you think.
Yeah, also about Lou's lead on the river.
Yeah.
Another one. I mean, there are all so many close decisions, you even forgot about one, and that's fair, because there's so many, and we have opinions on them, obviously, but they're not super strong opinions like we sometimes have. You know, we think Czuzor is probably wrong to shove, but I could be convinced by a very compelling argument otherwise. It's possible that one of you out there has that up in your brain, and you can do that for us. But what else you should do for us is check out this other Martin Czuzor hand. It actually happened in the same event. It's how he got that stack. You click right up here. Check that out.
Yeah, there's 15 left. There's still a lot going on, and it's a pretty fun, cool little hand. And someone makes a play at Martin.
Yeah, and
show.
We made a podcast about that hand. We made a podcast about this hand. We make podcasts about hands that we don't make videos about. So you got to check out our podcast It's called the Breakdown Poker Podcast with the Poker Guys. You can find it in all of your podcast apps. It's like 45 minutes to an hour. I think this one ended up being like an hour and 5 minutes because we were so close on all of these decisions. And it's really a great way to get insight into how we come to our conclusions that we end up talking about here on the videos. I think it's the best thing that we do. I think it's fun. You should check it out.
You definitely should. And if you like this video, make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.